You're muted. So, dude, let me check sound.
Tap your mic. That's weird.
Welcome to Creature Guy Live. We'll be diving into some fun animal news from around the world and as well hopping some funny animal videos. So, diving into the first article from Smithsonian Magazine. Strange shovel-tusked elephants puzzled paleontologists.
They can't see it.
Oh. All right, let's get started. Strange shovel-tusked elephants puzzled paleontologists until experts took a closer look at their teeth. So it seems like on the right, we have some early relatives of mastodons, mammoths, gomphotheres. Well, I wouldn't say early relatives of necessarily the gomphotheres. They were already occurring during the Miocene epoch, so over 18 million years ago, different parts of Africa, especially. And here it seems to be some sort of possibly Platybelodon, maybe even Embelodon. So the animal's extended lower jaws were seemingly made for scooping, but research over the past few decades has found they could do a lot more than initially expected. Oh, okay, so they're Embelodon. So this is in the 1932 illustration. Maybe it's from Charles Marsh, but there were other paleo artists in the era as well. Margaret Flinch. The bones belong to a prehistoric
that?
elephant. Huh?
What were you doing?
I'm not sure if that was the artist for that specific Embelodon. The bones belonged to a prehistoric elephant that much was certain, but they came from a species unlike any documented before. Paleontologists had uncovered a rib and single toe alongside a nearly perfect and truly unusual jaw. While the joined mandibles looked like those of other fossil elephants at the molars, the lower jaw was ludicrously extended into a shovel shaped tip with two long tusks. No jaw like it had ever been seen. Yeah, these specific tusks, they've been up for question for over a century as to what these specific um, teeth would have been used for. I mean, there have been even some theories that they were used for scooping up their young calves, but I doubt that they were designed for that way, or at least the trunk, there would have been enough space to contain a calf. When paleontologist Erwin Barber wrote a preliminary announcement of the bones discovery in the summer of 1927, he struggled to imagine how the beast had used its strange looking tusks. Dubbing the animal Embelodon fricai, Barber couldn't get over that shovel like jaw. I guess I'm not too familiar with Erwin Barber. I wonder if he communicated with paleontologists at the time, like Roy Chapman Andrews, who discovered Velociraptor and Protoceratops back over in Mongolia during the 1920s and the 1930s. It was a massive expedition, the Gobi Desert at that point. Can it be that this extraordinary mandible was used in dragging out freshwater seaweed or digging up pond lilies, cattails, reeds, and the like? I haven't heard of elephants feeding on cattails or maybe certain types of reeds, but probably pond lilies is likely. So let's see. Then again, the jaws seem to pinch in the middle in a way that would have made them more vulnerable to bending and breaking. The great leverage, as well as the apparent structural weakness, must be taken into account. speculating that possibly the trunk was wound around this unique shovel jaw to give it muscular reinforcement. Yeah, it's also been a bit of a question as to like how specifically even the trunks would have been structured, since it's such a one of the oddest skulls to be found in the animal kingdom, especially among mammals. Now, what's another thing? I mean, you could even say another mammal from the Cenozoic era, but more specifically the Oligocene, so around 30 million years ago, are the different members of the Entelodont family. So these are actually ancient relatives of modern day hippos. It was widely um, debated over a long time whether or not they were closely related to goats or possibly pigs because of their distinct skull structure as well as their feet. But apparently, they're more closely related to whales, dolphins, and hippos. Could you pull up an entelodont? So it's Entelodont. There were a handful of different species of these omnivores. Now, for the most part, it does look like they were feeding on probably early species of camels and horses during the time. So they look somewhat like a um, very heavily built wild boar, and some are even referred to as a Terminator pig. This looks like a representation is possibly Andrew Sarkis, not so much an Entelodont. Though I will say Andrew Sarkis, which lived much earlier in time over Mongolia, um, it's closer. I'll say that. I just think the canines might be a bit over exaggerated unless they found some more intact teeth of the upper jaw. But Entelodonts, there were smaller species that were probably around 200 to 300 pounds or a little over 150. Well, not around 120 kilograms. And then there were some species such as Deodon, which could reach over 1,700 pounds or over 800 kilograms. And they were feeding on many species of herbivores in the areas that they roamed, and probably also feeding on different species of fruits and other types of vegetation at the time. Since looking at their jaw structure, this individual seems to have more of a carnivorous jaw structure, and not really have anything, not showing any type of molars. But despite its pig-like look, oh yeah, this is a much older representation. This is probably a depiction from the 1950s or 1960s, and for the time, I mean, even today, it's almost entirely accurate. They did have very protruding upper canines. They were almost like the saber tooths of the, um, not necessarily whale lineage, but at least close relatives of whales, and they were definitely far from the macrodontid lineage of the saber-toothed cats. That's yeah, it's another representation. Though this looks like somebody took a warthog and they just made it even more menacing. They shrunk the side cheeks a bit. Obviously, they enhanced the canines. I guess I have to look at a entelodont skull because those canines are immense, and I'm seeing these on several depictions. They probably also had a very good sense of smell, which looking at animals like
This is kind of blurry, but
you that could be of maybe an entelodont or yeah, that's probably close to it. Very there you go. That's more of a molar structure. I think that we're looking at towards the back of the jaw. Even it's quite distinct even from hippos. Um,
this doesn't say Entelodont. Entelodont. Hold on.
oh well, I mean, there's several different genre. Okay, that looks like it's possibly what a Deodon skull. No, oh, it's I think Archaeotherium, which is yeah, this animal existed during the mid Oligocene epoch, so somewhere between 28 to 30 million years ago, over in Nebraska, different parts of Wyoming, the Dakotas, and probably over Montana. And just this was also at around the time when there was a massive climatic change occurring. So just before the entelodonts would have evolved, as well as different species of creodonts or bit of a more famous group are the hyenodonts within this era. And what occurred was you had simply a massive degradation of forests, and this would have been turned into a mass open grassland. With that, you have a much less of a humid sort of environment, and the environment or the climate became a lot drier. And then you had a wide range of animals, especially such as camels, that would evolve over in North America. You might have even seen Asia or Europe that were seeing different climatic changes, and even to Africa. But yeah,
Let me
looking
get
at
rid of these.
cores. What?
Let me get rid of these.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the upper canines, they are quite long. I was expecting them to be, I thought I remember them being much shorter. Still quite distinct from even the different wild pig species that you see today. But back onto the elephants. I think I was just simply mentioning the entelodonts because they have such a unique jaw structure. You could say that with hippos too, but when looking at prehistoric animals, I think they're one of the closest ones when referring to different species of mammals when it comes to these odd prehistoric elephant sort of skulls. So let's see. Um, the year after Barber named Embelodon, Russian paleontologist Alexei Borisyak published a paper on a similar animal found in the southern part of his country and named it Platybelodon danovi. This new form had an even more scoop-like jaw than Embelodon did, and a later paper included a photo of the jaw next to a shovel to drive home the point. Oh, okay. So I'm guessing he was over in was it some part of Eurasia or Africa where he discovered a Platybelodon, but um, Platybelodon existed far into like the Pliocene epoch, I believe, like around 4 to 5 million years ago, similar to the time of the giant shark Otodus megalodon. So it's very likely they were inhabiting different types of marshes and maybe feeding on different types of certain aquatic plants and maybe even going after different species of trees. So yeah, there's the distinct shovel-like tusks. This is a very long one. Is this Embelid? No, it's Platybelodon. I've seen certain skulls that were quite wide or much wider than this individual. Wonder what's standing right next to it. Okay. So associating form with function made sense at the time, says Georgia Southern University paleontologist Caitlin Smith. If the form is a shovel, it's a pretty logical hypothesis it would be used as such. So early 20th century paleontologists tried to imagine what sort of environment a shoveling jaw would work in. Thinking that habitats with soft sediment and lots of plants would make the most sense, they envisioned the fossil elephants there. Platybelodon in particular was assumed to inhabit the shores of silt-bottom lakes, where it could scoop water lilies and other plants. Its shovel jaw is overlain by a flat, worm-like trunk. Little by little, more shovel-jawed elephants tumbled out of the ancient rock. Embelodon and Platybelodon turned out not to be offshoot oddities. Shovel tuskers, as they came to be known among experts, had apparently been widespread. More than a dozen species are now recognized from northern Africa, Europe, Asia, and North America, found in rock layers 5 to 23 million years old. Yeah, so somewhere between the like late Oligocene epoch almost and the beginning of the Pliocene epoch, you had these different shovel-tusked elephants, and they could still weigh over 8 tons easy. So there was another group of prehistoric elephants. They weren't necessarily shovel tusks, but they still had tusks, unlike any other group of ancient elephants. I would even say a bit odder than the Platybelodons themselves, and that was the Dinotheres, which for some reason had very downward curved tusks. Why they were evolved in that way is a huge question. But let's see, where was I getting at? Something with Platybelodon. Oh, yeah, Northern Africa wasn't hitting me for some reason. I was thinking of Ethiopia and Kenya over in East Africa, and I forgot that they're being discovered over in areas like Egypt. For decades after their initial discovery, the lifestyle of shovel tuskers seemed obvious, but now, with paper after paper, paleontologists have come to realize that shovel shaped tusks were useful for a much broader range of behaviors than experts initially thought. Given the variety of species and the variations in shovel shape, we should expect them to be using them for different tasks. I think it depends, though, when it comes to who is the oddest type of elephant to exist. I don't know. Could you look up Dinotherium? So Deinotherium. Erium. Also, there's a handful of different species of Dinotherium too. And then, as well as you have the gomphotheres, which can have very odd tusk structures as well. But I guess you could say in many instances, well, there's, I believe, the four tusked, certain four tusked gomphothere, unless I'm confusing it with a relative of Platyblodon. Um, I just think that for some reason, the tusks of Dinotherium, because it's just hard to tell outside of maybe rubbing the bark off of trees, which is possibly the case for the Ambulodon or Platypodon as well. So this is Dinotherium. And this is good to see that this image is showing a much longer trunk, because which is interesting. Um, the reason I'm saying that is there was a period in time where Dinotherium was being shown with a very short trunk compared to its body size for some reason. And beforehand, it was actually quite long. This animal inhabited Africa and, depending on the species, certain parts of Eurasia. So
You mean
possibly Near
like
East.
this?
Um, that
Or did
that's
someone just break it?
certain toys just have that sort of look. But yeah, this is a good depiction of a Dinotherium. But as you see with the tusk shape, and also what's interesting is that Dinotheriums tend to be portrayed with very stocky, sort of a tusk, not tusk, a trunk shape, which is interesting. Some, though, a bit more matching for their overall size. They also have a very, in many instances, well, this depiction is probably from what, the 1940s, 1950s. It's giving these animals a bit more of like a, um, almost like a well-fed Asian elephant sort of look, but with much more stocky legs. I guess a bit closer to a bush elephant. But in a lot of cases, or at least in more recent reconstructions, Dinotheres tend to be shown as having very long legs compared to their body size, at least just a longer and narrower gait. It's very possible that they might have had a very similar feeding behavior to animals like Ambulodon and Platyblodon. So possibly even coexisting in some instances. And though certain Dinotherium species would have lived further south compared to many species of the Platyblodon lineage.
Were they estimated to be swamp?
It's a mixture. They were probably over in different types of open woodland or somewhat like a savanna sort of ecosystem. And then you could have had certain instances where they were feeding in different marshes or in some cases swamps. I'm going to guess probably more of a marsh compared to a swamp if we're talking Africa and East Africa. Dinotherium. So Platylodons are probably somewhere around 7.5 tons. And Dinotherium was one of the largest species of ancient elephant to exist, or Proboscidean. So this animal could probably reach somewhere between 12 to 15 tons. So in some cases, larger than T Rex, and slightly bigger than the.
Wait, that big?
Also reaching a height of probably around 13 to 14 feet, or
At
over 4 meters.
at the shoulder?
Yes. So this thing was definitely a menace to most, well, probably a full grown, all carnivores in the region. They're definitely going to be preying on smaller individuals. And um, also, that's a big thing. How would an animal like this be able to defend itself with this type of a curved tusks? I mean, just tusk shape. It's just a big question. I mean, obviously, the animal could stomp on anything.
Well, if it put its head back on something was coming at it and came down on it.
That's true, but most carnivores at the time, I mean, what, we're looking at a height of maybe 5 feet. If they're not rearing up on their hind legs
Well,
and be
then it would just stomp on it, wouldn't it?
probably. I think what's another thing there. It is interesting in these also more recent reconstructions. They're giving the Dinotheres a bit larger of an ear compared to its body size compared to certain older reconstructions. Some gave them like mammoth-sized ears. Though the ecosystem that Dinotherium roamed, it was quite warm, and you could say subhuman in some instances. So, I guess you could say a bit like certain ecosystems over in Africa today, or even maybe Florida, certain parts of southeastern United States, which is also why they've been depicted as almost furless, but still probably having small furs all over their body, which is what you can see in elephants today over in Africa. I believe Asian elephants might be a
You just
bit.
say small furs all over their body?
Oh, is that what I said? Small hairs. Or
That was funny.
like, yeah, maybe
It was
fuzz.
patched.
Um, actually, I wouldn't say patched. Well, definitely their tail was one of the only areas, probably having a bit of like not a mustache, but whatever you call their underneath area.
No, you're saying it had hair, fur all over fur.
No, you wouldn't
I
have.
was saying there were, like, little patches of fur all over its body. It
Yeah, that would have. I mean, you could have had that rare individual dino there with that kind of hairdo.
that was a joke.
It can happen, but yeah, it's that would be freaky. And anyway, besides the fur, yeah, this animal, what did I mention its weight? Yeah, it's around 12 to 15 tons, probably having to feed on over 800 to 900 pounds of food or over 400 kilograms each day. So let's head back to the article. Many of the different species of Dinothere also existed at the very end of animals like Ambelodon's lineage. Okay, so examining the tooth wear of Ambelodon, Platyblodon, and a related animal named Tornabelodon, Lambert concluded that Ambelodon had used its jaws to feed in a range of ways from scooping to scraping, while the other two had likely used their broad, square tusks to cut tough vegetation. Probably because Ambelodon, Platyblodon, and Tornabelodon, despite being quite closely related, they still had very distinct tusk-like structures. So let's see. Elephant tusks are simply elongated scissor teeth made primarily of dentine, the material just under the enamel of a tooth. Prehistoric elephants belong to two main groups: two-tusked and four-tusked creatures. The shovel tuskers, with their odd lower jaws, didn't fall neatly into either group. Yeah, I was wondering. I guess sometimes the gomphotheres can be put into the four-tusked lineage, and the when it comes to animals like Platypodon, they were, you could say, two tuskers because it was just simply their trunk and then those odd lower set of teeth, which is essentially what these tusks are.
So the big question is, would they make fun of the elephants of today?
I think they would. Actually, that was a question of mine for years. It's not exactly would they make fun of them. It's that would they kill them or simply want to get rid of them because of the way that they look, or just simply go, okay, just stay out of the marsh. Let us have this food to ourselves, and we won't bother you. That's a big question because certain herbivores, especially like animals such as, um,
Elephants?
well, yeah, elephants, they're like that. So I kind of wonder if maybe in instances the elephants would be a bit more aggressive towards animals like Platyblodon, which when you look at Platyblodon, they have a very, there's something about them, maybe not so much in this image, but they're kind of depicted as very calm creatures. Dinotheres are always portrayed as these aggressive animals. Probably from I'm not sure if it was pushed from the 2000 or 2001 series, Walking with Beasts, or they've always been portrayed that way for some reason. Maybe it's because they're one of the largest proboscideans to exist. Okay, so going forward, let's see. Lambert's hypothesis was far from the last word. In recent years, paleontologists have uncovered more evidence that these odd proboscideans, members of the group of mammals that include elephants and their relatives, were doing far more than shoveling. A 2022 study by Bay Path University paleontologist Gina Simprabon and her colleagues found that shovel tuskers were not bound to soft sediment habitats full of sopping plants. The beasts were forest elephants that ate leaves and twigs, scraping and cutting their way through the Miocene salad bar. The
I'm sorry, that was funny.
I mean, it does make sense. And also, you would have a wide variety of different species of, let's say, well, in this instance, probably certain trees that they're feeding on over in the Miocene. So this could be over 18 million years ago, 20 million years ago. The critical clues came from the remains of shovel-tusked elephants found in the rocks of Florida, which boasts its own species of Ambelodon, as well as two other forms known as Conobelodon and Cerbelodon. So there are um, a wide range of genre when it comes to these types of proboscidean elephants, referring to the Conobelodon, Cerbelodon. The key was to not get too focused on the scoop like shape of the lower jaw. The team instead studied wear on the upper tusks and molars, as well as the peculiar lower jaw teeth. Now, I always wonder why people hadn't done some more like intense analysis on like where when it comes to the different tusks of these specific types of proboscideans. And well, now they finally did because that would give us quite an insight to what these animals are feeding on. Shovel tuskers had a pair of conical upper tusks, like many of their mastodon relatives, and those upper tusks were not merely for show. Modern elephant species regularly use theirs as multi tools, involved in everything from shoving contests to stripping bark from trees. Uh, yeah, I mean, they do shove into each other, but it's more of like they're using their own weight. Even the bulls that tend to have shorter tusks compared to their body size, usually if they're stabbing each other, then somebody's getting heavily injured. But they tend to do pretty well with dodging their tusks. The wear on the tusks and molars found among the shovel tuskers indicated that they fell into the same pattern. The upper tusks of Embelodon, Conebelodon, and Cerbelodon were used to scrape and cut, meaning these elephants too had a wide ranging tusky toolkit. Viewed under the microscope, the molar teeth of Embelodon.
Okay, I just imagined a toolkit full of a bunch of different size and shaped tusks.
I thought you were going to say teeth, even though tusks are technically teeth. Yeah, well, that's basically what evolution did. It was like, what should I give Embelodon? Or what should I give, a Dinotherium or a Columbian mammoth? Let's see. Conebelodon and Cerbelodon bore the same sort of pitting and scratches seen on modern African forest elephants. Well, isn't that interesting? And this is different than what we're going to be seeing on something like an African bush elephant, considering these are two completely different species and they're occupying different types of habitats and climate as well. This signaled to Semprabon's team that the shovel tuskers were also browsers, likely living in habitats framed by trees, where the elephants plucked out succulent leaves, fruits, and needle filled branches. Yeah, so here's, I'm guessing, not a Platybolodon. The Platybolodon has much longer lower jaw bones compared to its body size. So this is either a what a sign. Oh, it's an Eubelodon. Okay, more of the Elodons are coming into life.
You.
Yeah. Well,
I just like how you said that.
yeah. I'm trying to think if over here though, it's an early species of giraffe or another relative of certain or another group of mammals. It's not hitting me. I don't think these are camels. Well, okay, if we're talking North America, these could be earlier species of camel.
I thought early North American camels were tiny.
Well, this is much later after they first evolved. This is approaching somewhere between 10 to 15 million years after they first appeared. So there's going to be a lot of increase in size. Though something like a cockroach would like a word. Okay. Well, maybe not because they did increase in size, like especially during the um, Carboniferous period, or at least many species of insects did, and then they quickly shrank because of the decrease in
How
oxygen
large did they get?
with the cockroaches, at least 4 times the size of the largest ones today. Um, well, that would be the length, but we're just talking.
You're talking about overall size.
Yeah, it's not hitting me. I don't know, but dragonflies, back then they could reach over what I think around 2 feet or over like I don't know, somewhere around 0.6 meters. Whereas the biggest ones today are barely, a few inches. So let's see, at least when I'm referring to the wingspan. Okay, where on the shovel tusks themselves also signaled flexible and variable behaviors. And Velodon didn't show any indication that it had been shoving its lower jaw into sediment. Barber, may have been right that the bone could not mechanically handle such an activity. Instead, the shovel teeth of Embelodon showed wear patterns more consistent with bark, stripping, and scraping. Yeah, that's what I would expect. Now, it is interesting that they're not It seems like they're not coming into contact with any sort of clay, which is what elephants over African forest elephants specifically regularly come into contact with for obtaining essential minerals. Let's see. But Abilodon doesn't seem to um, have come into contact with that sediment. Counobelodon fossils, by contrast, did show some signs of digging, and Cerbelodon teeth showed signs of both scooping and scraping. The trunks of Platyblodon and relatives, too, are now thought to have been much like those of other elephants. Based on the cutting edges of their tusks, their trunks were likely relatively long and tubular, like those of modern elephants, with the flexible proboscis helping hold vegetation against their tusks. Yeah, that's what I would assume, especially if they're trying to grab onto tightly rooted plants over in different types of marshes or even over on land. What is interesting is that they're mentioning it had a very, guess long and tubular, so I guess much more narrow compared to the average look of something like a platyblodon, where it has a bit of a flat sort of, or flat and wide trunk structure. So I'm a bit confused. I mean, is it simply that you didn't have any gum in that area and it wouldn't have been really affected? Like the tongue was much further down. So I guess that's a big question. Shovel tuskers were not oddballs restricted to a narrow way of life. The widespread elephants were well equipped to munch their way through ancient forests, pulling softer leaves off branches with their trunks and cutting through tougher plant foods with their teeth. Yeah, that would make sense, especially when they're having to obtain bark or wood in some way. Their tusks would do the job for them. The multi-tool analogy makes sense for such elaborate structures as shovel tusks, Smith notes. Elongated jaws are energetically expensive for the animal's body to grow and maintain, so multiple uses would be most efficient. I'd be surprised if a shovel tusker was only shoveling, envisioning them slicing, scraping, scooping, cutting, and probably other things I can't even think of. Yeah, so there's your okay, so well, okay, I was thinking I think what I tend to forget, especially with animals like Platyblodon, is that or maybe it's Embelodon, where the trunk ends right at the tip of the bottom jaw. Whereas what's showing here with Platyblodon, where the trunk is still quite distance away from the tip of the bottom jaw, and the tongue only extends to the very front, like just beyond, at least in this illustration, where the skin and the gum is. And it seems like there would have been quite a bit of muscle overstretched to the side. And oh, this is a four tusker individual. Is this a platypelodon? No, it's an ambelodon. Older reconstructions would show, yeah, much uh, wider sort of a trunk surface. So this makes sense. It's good to see. And it's a four tusker individual. I think its toes are okay. So, but if shovel tusks were so useful, why did this group of elephants disappear by 5 million years ago? That question is complicated. Maybe the energetic expense of growing both upper tusks and lower tusks eventually outweighed the benefits as environments and climates changed. Smith suggests there was a climatic event that occurred, or you had different climate events occurring. I mean, you could say throughout the Miocene epoch, but also definitely into the from the Miocene into the Pliocene, and you had a wide range of different types of elephants evolving at that time as well. So, the Miocene Pliocene boundaries around 5 million years ago. Other forms of herbivores may have been better suited to the new conditions. The spread of grasslands and fallback of forested habitats that began 20 million years ago. That was already occurring back in the Oligocene, so over like 33 million years ago. Maybe it just became a little more intense in certain areas. Might have had something to do with the disappearance of such successful elephants. I'm not sure if I would call them necessarily successful. I mean, they did okay, but I'd say they became a bit specialized in some instances. You can have it where an animal's still able to feed on a wide range of plants, but it's not well adapted to much of a change in its overall ecosystem. As grasslands expanded, feeding shifted away from the long lower jaw toward a more flexible trunk capable of coiling and grasping food. Um, hmm. That's just a hard one to agree with, considering you already had expanded grasslands. Maybe what was occurring in any areas that certain members of this elephant group were occurring. Maybe there were simply more marshes, depending on what we're finding in the sediment, and then the grassland just took over. Yeah, that could have a massive negative effect. Also, especially if they're getting maybe certain nutrients in these marshes that they're not getting in expansive grasslands. Shovel shaped jaws for cutting and scraping tough objects like bark were less effective in prairie and savanna habitats with fewer trees. Meanwhile, trunks that could pull up clumps of grass in addition to stripping leaves from branches became more important over time. Elephants relied increasingly on their trunks and less on elongated lower jaws, which eventually became shorter. The huge herbivores shifting to what best gathered the available plant food around them. Um, so yeah, I mean, as you see the elephant family progress, they got into the Pliocene, Pleistocene. They became for the most part grass eaters. They could still feed on certain other types of vegetation, possibly wood in some instances, but definitely once you reach the mammoths, they're for the most part only feeding on different species of grasses. Their teeth are not meant for taking down leaves or slicing through them. That's where the mastodons come to play. I don't remember exactly when it comes to dinotheres what they're specifically feeding on. For now, no one really knows what led to the disappearance of the shovel tuskers and other unusual elephant forms that lived before the age of human caused extinction. It was a fundamentally different time on our planet when multi ton herbivores could drastically alter the habitats around them based on where they walked, how they fed, and what trees they pushed over. I don't mentioning hominids at all at this point is um, just funny because they wouldn't evolve, or at least into what many people are today, past few thousand years. If you're talking things like Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, Denisovans, yeah, somewhere between 3 to 400,000 or 500,000 years ago. But yeah, at this point, hominids were preyed on by everything else. Um, no, they were. I mean, we're talking about primates or apes that because hominids are apes.
Yeah, but you said they weren't.
They weren't hunted.
You said hominins weren't preyed on.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's okay. So I mistook what I said. They were preyed on by the smaller saber-toothed cats at the time, different early forms of bears, possibly, earlier species of hyenas, and you could have it where, in many instances, these early elephants would have trampled them as well. Since it's quite common for elephants to trample, like lion cubs, for say today, African painted dogs, hyenas. So let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Okay, well, let's head over to
This was a
video.
40-minute article.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring up the other weird sort of mammals of the Cenozoic. They're fun. So let's head over to the next video. Okay, there's the lioness. Wonder where we are. Maybe we're like judging by what we can see. Um, okay, I don't know. Well, maybe South Africa. This is Kruger National Park. Oh, that's interesting. So apparently the lioness barely saw her.
She's like, I'm out of here.
I wonder if that was somewhat a cub. Like when referring to the leopard. Oh, there were two leopards. So I guess one was in the tree and one was, I don't know, just scattered. All right. Well, okay. So from IndianDefenseReview.com, neither terrestrial nor aquatic, this ancient snake fossil doesn't belong anywhere on the evolutionary map. Discovered in England, this ancient creature has no modern match, and its secrets have only just been discovered. Okay, I wonder what we're looking at. A fossil specimen stored for decades in a London museum has recently been recognized as a distinct and previously undocumented species of ancient snake. The vertebrae, long overlooked, were found in southern England in the early 1980s, but remained unidentified for over 40 years. Their re examination is prompting renewed scrutiny of snake evolutionary history and how early snake lineages diversified during the Eocene epoch. So, this is from somewhere around 50 to, well, could be anywhere between 45 to 55 million years ago over in England. So it's interesting. I haven't heard of any snake fossils being found over in England. The Natural History Museum in London confirmed in late 2025 that the fossil represents a unique genus and species, revealing a set of anatomical traits that do not align with known snake families. Its discovery raises questions about existing classification systems and signals the potential for further finds in long held collections. The species named Paradoxophidian Richard Owenii. Oh, like they gave the species the name Richard Owen, who is the person that founded the name or the term dinosaur, which means terrible lizard. Was described in a peer-reviewed study published in Comptus Rendus Pellival by Dr. Georgios L. Georgelis of the Polish Academy of Sciences and Dr. Mark E. H. Jones of the Natural History Museum. It is based on 31 tiny vertebrae recovered from Hortal Cliff on England's south coast. The bones were originally excavated in 1981, but remained unstudied due to their fragmentary nature. Researchers used high resolution microtomography to create three-dimensional models of the vertebrae. Their analysis revealed features not previously seen together in any known snake. The bones are compact and robust, with pronounced hypophysized. No, yeah, let's keep going. Running throughout the vertebral column, a combination not typical of burrowing or fully aquatic species. Hmm, interesting. So this animal had very robust bone structure for a species of snake. Yeah, interesting. Gosh, he's got a thick. What kind of neck exercise is he doing? That's a little too much.
Maybe you just swallowed something.
Well, I mean, snakes, their bodies do massively expand compared to, I mean, depending on what type of an animal they're feeding on, could be another snake. But yeah, this is interesting. Okay, so the new fossil snake lived in a much warmer England over 37 million years ago. Well, that's towards um okay, I guess I left out a period in time for the Eocene. It's quite a long epoch. That was towards the very end of the Eocene epoch. So this is towards the time when you see certain relatives of rhinos and early land relatives, well, distant land relatives of whales evolve on land. Morphology shows superficial similarity to extinct roscephalids and modern acrocordids or elephant trunk snakes. Haven't heard of an elephant trunk snake. However, the fossil differs significantly from both groups in key structural traits. The genus name reflects this ambiguity. Paradoxophidian, meaning paradox snake, points to its conflicting anatomical signals. As detailed by the Natural History Museum, the fossil likely represents an early branch of Cynophidian snakes. This lineage includes more than 80% of modern snake species. The authors propose that Paradoxophidian may even be the earliest known member of the Acrocordidae family, which until now had no known fossil record in Europe from this period. Oh, well, I guess that makes sense as to why this is such a shock for this part of the world in general. Hmm. So the fossil was recovered from Eocene age sediment dated to approximately 37 million years ago. At that time, southern England had a much warmer climate. With elevated atmospheric carbon dioxide levels and a position closer to the equator, these conditions supported a subtropical environment, with a variety of reptiles thriving in the region. Hortal Cliff had been a key site for British paleontology since the 19th century or the 1800s. As noted in the NHM feature on the site's fossil history, it yielded early specimens of Pylorites, the first constrictor snake, so the first snake to be able to squeeze something to death. formally named in the fossil record. I did not know that about this specific genus, the Pelorix. It's interesting. Wonder how old this specific species of snake is. Unless it's Eocene as well, but I think there are already different constricting species of snakes back in the Cretaceous period. So over 66 million years ago. The specific epithet Richard Owenii honors Richard Owen, who not only studied these early finds, but also established a museum where the specimen was preserved. Oh, did he find the Natural History Museum over in London? Hmm.
For a second, I thought you were asking me that. I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know. The newly described fossil remained in a museum storage until Georgalis re-examined it during a research visit. Its small size with vertebrae measuring only a few millimeters. It's pretty small. Likely contributed to its decades long delay in recognition. Reassessment demonstrates how historic museum collections, when reanalyzed using modern imaging and comparative methods, can yield scientifically significant discoveries. In the technical description published in Comptes Rendus Pelleval, researchers confirmed that all 31 vertebrae belong to a single individual based on their internal consistency and gradual variation along the spinal column. Digital UCT scans of the vertebrae have been archived and made available for open access study. Um, it's quite shocking that it's just. I wonder what part of the snake that was, considering it's only a few millimeters long. No skull or limb elements were recovered with the fossil, which limits interpretations of the species' ecology. The vertebrae lack the elongation found in burrowing snakes and do not exhibit adaptations typically associated with aquatic locomotion. Okay, so it doesn't seem like this snake is capable of swimming very well. That's good thing to note. So the backbones of Parodivoxidian are surprisingly similar to those of Acrocordus snakes. Um, okay. Although some features resemble those of Acrocordus, a genus of aquatic snakes found today in Southeast Asia and northern Australia, the presence of Paradoxophidian in Eocene era England creates a paleobiogeographic anomaly. If the fossil is ultimately confirmed as a member of Acrocordidae, it would push the group's origin back by over 15 million years and significantly expand its historical range. Wow, that's quite something. So that's over what? 20 so that would have meant that the earliest fossils are somewhere around 23 million years old, and now they're dating back to 37. So that's towards like the end of the Oligocene when they were dating them. That's quite something. As reported by IFL Science, researchers noted that the unusual combination of traits complicates efforts to place the species within any established clade. The incomplete nature of the fossil highlights broader limitations in snake paleontology, which relies heavily on vertebral features that may not capture the full diversity of extinct lineages. The study highlights the potential for discoveries in long-standing museum collections, particularly among microvertebrate fossils. Thousands of specimens gathered throughout the 20th century remain unanalyzed using modern imaging techniques. Curators and researchers are increasingly calling for systematic reevaluation of legacy archives to uncover hidden or misidentified taxa. Uh, Fordalis and Jones have signaled plans to continue their work with snake fossils in the Natural History Museum, including remains attributed to Paleophis, a giant aquatic snake with a sparse fossil record in Western Europe. The team's focus on underexamined historical specimens is part of a broader effort to reconstruct evolutionary patterns in early Cainophidian snakes. The classification of Paradoxophidian is expected to influence how scientists interpret early diversification in snake evolution. Um, okay. So, that was quite something when it came to the snake. I'm glad that they found this earlier um, group of snakes over in England. Let's head over to the next video.
you said that with such enthusiasm.
Now, it's just It's not a huge snake, but I mean, all snakes have their uniqueness. Um, let's just check out what's next.
Some some are better fried.
I've never heard of a fried snake. Maybe I've just heard of snake or medicine. Oh, okay. Just some leopard cubs.
I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, they seem pretty comfortable. Obviously, she's standing guard.
She's not even moving.
I thought there were 3 of them for a second.
They're hopping all over her, and she's not even budging. Huh. Okay, so I set it up all paleo back to back to back, apparently.
I mean, should we? Okay. All right. From Sci News, 80 million-year-old fossils of long-snouted crocodile unearthed in Egypt. Paleontologists. Okay, so we have traveled back to the late Cretaceous. So this is during the Campanian stage of the period, and this is about 14 million years before the dinosaurs go extinct. So let's take a look. Paleontologists have discovered 2 partial skulls and 3 partial jaws from an early diverging dry saurid crocodiliform in the layers of the Kasur Formation in Egypt. Yeah, this crocodilomorph, at least by this interpretation, seems to have more of like a Sarcosuchus sort of a look, which is it's in its own branch of crocodilomorph. So it's not closely related to modern day caimans, alligators, crocodiles, garrels, even though it has a bit more of a garrel sort of appearance. It's some sort of fish. The new crocodiliform species lived in what is now Egypt about 80 million years ago, named Wadasuchus casabi. It was a type of dryasaurid. I might have said that originally, but this is one of those families where you might confuse it with a somewhat similarly sounding family of another animal. So I'm confusing this with a small group of dinosaurs called the Dryosaurs, which were group of bipedal or two-legged ornithopods or plant-eating dinosaurs, especially during the late Jurassic period or early Cretaceous. It's around 145 or 140 to 155 million years ago. Let's see. But we're talking about dirosaurid crocodilomorphs. A group of crocodiliforms characterized by diverse skull morphologies and a broad distribution from the late Cretaceous to the Paleogene. So apparently, this group did survive the mass extinction at the end of the Cretaceous and the beginning of the Cenozoic or Paleogene, as it's sometimes called. Um, but for some reason, mysteriously went extinct after that. Unlike today's crocodiles, dinosaurids thrived in coastal and marine environments, equipped with elongated snouts and slender, needle sharp teeth, ideal for seizing slippery prey such as fish and turtles. So it sounds like this animal is almost like a alligator over in certain parts of Florida or South Carolina, or one of those saltwater crocodiles. You can have, well, saltwater crocodiles over in different parts of Southern Asia, Southeast Asia, as well as Australia, and they're quite adaptable in many ways. Their remarkable survival and dispersal after the extinction of the dinosaurs make them crucial for understanding how reptiles adapted and diversified when global ecosystems collapsed. Wadasuchus casabi measured between 3.5 and 4 meters, somewhere between 11 or 12 to 14 feet. 12 to 13 feet, had a very long snout and tall, sharp teeth. It differed from other dinosaurs in having 4 teeth at the front of the snout instead of the primitive 5. It's almost like certain different. I don't believe a was it a crocodilomorph? I, no, I believe it was a phytosaur, which can sometimes be mistaken for crocodilomorphs because of their somewhat similar appearance. But sir, the phytosaurs were a group of archosaurs, so the same branch of reptiles that would evolve into the dinosaurs. Um, But the Phytosaurs, they existed during the Triassic period only. So from around 230 to 240 million years ago, and then when they first evolved, and then mysteriously went extinct around 201 million years ago at the beginning of the Jurassic.
I just posted fried gator time.
Yeah, it definitely sounds good. Especially for a wide range of carnivores. But um, the Phytosaurs had a distinct, like if you're looking at something such as a Smilasuchus, which lived over in Arizona, Texas, around 200 and I believe like 18 million years ago. It's a 20-foot long, probably 2,500 pound or 1,200 kilogram distant relative of crocodiles. Very distant relative. But it's just it has like these distinct teeth at the front of their snout that are not close to the rest of its the teeth inside of its mouth, at least further back. So, and having four teeth at the front of the snout instead of the primitive five, nostrils positioned on top of the snout for surface breathing, a deep notch at the tip of the snout where the jaws met. So these features show a gradual adaptation in the Dryasaurid bite, marking an important step in their evolutionary history. Two partial skulls and three partial jaws from four Wadasuchus casabi individuals were discovered at Kargai and Baris oases in Egypt's western desert. That's wow, that's really good to hear. It's not a huge crocodilomorph, but I mean, 13 feet, that's okay. 4 meters. Beyond the distinctive features of Wadasuchus casabi, it plays a crucial role in understanding the origin of the Dinosaurid group. The new species pushes back evidence for an African origin of Dirosauridae and suggests that their diversification began earlier than previously thought, possibly during the early Konyakian and Santonian. So I believe, okay, this is during the late Cretaceous, about 87 to 83 million years ago, rather than the traditionally assumed Maastrichtian, about 72 to 66 million years ago. Oh, I thought they already knew this. So apparently this is new when it comes to the Dirosaurids. Also, can you look up Smilasuchus? I thought they already known this. Okay, so yeah, Smilasuchus. Um, yeah, it's quite interesting. So they were probably feeding on smaller species of dinosaur, maybe even certain marine reptiles at the time, since it's suggesting that they lived over in certain coastal environments, as well as going after different species of fish. Yeah, so basically here we have
I just thought it was funny.
yeah, here we have a cynodont. This tends to be a pretty regular depiction. I think this is actually based off of a certain fossil display. But a certain Placerius, which is a member of the Cynodont lineage, so it's a proto mammal, and then behind it is a Smilasuchus, and so this is the Phytosaur.
Ooh.
So, despite it looking very close, resembling a crocodile somewhat, it's not one. It's not even a crocodilomorph. This animal, yeah, as you can tell, those front teeth at the top, they're not exactly connected to the rest of the teeth inside of its mouth. There is a bit of space. For some reason, it's quite odd. Why did animals like Smilasuchus evolved this? And then you have animals like Garrel or even Sarcosuchus, who are quite distantly related, though they're still both crocodilomorphs. Actually, you could look up.
Is this
Oh,
from a
yeah.
game?
I think that's the teeth dentry. No, no, no. It's just a picture. Teeth entry might be a bit off in this, but it's still a good reconstruction. Looking at the rest of it. Also, could you look up Sarcosuchus? So Sarcosuchus. It also shows like Sarcosuchus imperator. That's the species. Oh, yeah. Here we just basically have a Smilasuchus. So this is over 218 million years ago, and it's feeding on a idosaur. So that's the armored animal on the bottom. So here is Sarcosuchus. This is like a picture back from the early 2010s. But it's not bad. I mean, for the whole reconstruction. But its teeth, I believe, are a bit closer to the teeth at the tip of its snout compared to the phytosaurs like Smilasuchus, as well as the Dirosaurid that were the of the new discovery. Yeah, so this might be a smaller individual Sarcosuchus. It's been a huge debate as to the size of this animal. Originally, it was suggested this individual could reach somewhere between 40 to 45 feet in length, or pushing somewhere between 12 to 14 meters. So, yeah, even weighing somewhere between 9 to 11 tons. And then it was shrunk to somewhere around 30 feet or 9 meters and weighing uh, maybe a little over 3 tons. Huh, I haven't seen this one before. But
Says it came out of Path of Titans wiki.
oh, yeah, that's the video game. Yeah, I mean, their model is not bad. I guess just the coloration, that's
Hold on,
is
there's
the
something on
difference.
Reddit. This can't be real.
But Sarcosuchus existed over in Egypt around 110 million years ago. No, that's probably authentic. It had extremely long skull compared to its body size. It was somewhere between, I think it was around 6 feet.
Have you ever seen anybody handle a fossil that big with one hand?
Oh, okay. Well, unless it's made out of.
That's what was making me wonder because it doesn't even look old when you look at the front of it.
Yeah, I just say the overall reconstruction of it is, um, probably pretty close to accurate. It's probably feeding on different species of fish, likely had the, strength, or it had the durability to take down smaller dinosaur individuals, probably not going after any full-grown, like, animals its size. That would just be a little, I would think it would be too much pressure on its skull, because you can see Sarcosuchus does not have a very robust jaw structure, unlike certain other types of crocodilomorphs, which had more of a crocodile or an alligator sort of, um, physique. Whereas this is a bit closer to a Garrow, but was probably a bit more, um, probably had a bit more strength in its skull compared to its own body size than a Garrow does. But Garrows have um, very brittle snouts, which is why they mostly just feed on fish. But it existed over in Egypt around 110 million years ago during the early Cretaceous. And let's see. Yeah, so it coexisted with spinosaurs such as Suchomimus and not Spinosaurus itself. Okay, let's see.
Heard of
Was
'em?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was also a Herrerasaurus, the dinosaur in the background.
Where are you?
It's probably scavenging on the Idosaur, probably a
Is
Dismantasuchus.
that it?
I think there was a little more. Let's see. The discovery indicates that Africa was the cradle of Dinosaurid evolution. They always tend to say that about, specifically Africa being the cradle of a lot of, different types of animal species, or I guess you could say groups, orders, when, many cases there were other continents like North America, Asia, that were the cradle of, different animal groups as well. So let's see. The significance of what? Oh, did I finish that? Let's see. From which later lineages spread across the globe, and our phylogenetic analyses consistently placed Wadasuchus casabi, an ancestor of the Dirosaurid group. The significance of Wadasuchus casabi lies not only in what it reveals about the evolutionary history of this remarkable group of crocodiles, though that is a major achievement, but also in what it reminds us of. Egypt's western desert still holds treasures that preserve the secrets of our planet's deep past. There are a lot of things that come out of Egypt. You have, different species of dinosaurs from the early Cretaceous period that come out of there. You have, as well as different species of crocodilomorphs, large ones like Sarcosuchus, for instance. And then you have different species of mammals from the Eocene epoch, even well into like the Pleistocene, so the recent ice age, that you have different species or different types of fossils. Egypt has quite a bit. Um, Many just tend to assume it's, mummified cats. There's a lot more that comes out of there. You have mummified crocodiles too. It might have been a lion or a leopard here somehow. Um, but let's head over to the next article. I mean video or not? Should we head over? Wait to be. Oh, I think that's dung right there. Oh, okay. So there's a leopard. Gosh, there's a ton of dung everywhere. They're like rhinos or elephants here? Hmm. Wonder where we are. It's quite sandy. Oh, it's going after a crocodile monitor. I think that's a crocodile monitor. Oh, yep.
Whack in the
That's
nose.
yeah, it's its main defense mechanism is just um using its tail. It's not venomous.
Damn.
Looks like a younger leopard too,
You look
unless
tasty.
it's a female. Yep. I decided to have some reptile meat if it grabs it.
It doesn't seem to want to get smacked. Just trying to figure it out.
It's pretty warm
Oh,
out, so the
that's
lizard's
it.
pretty active too. Yeah. I don't know where they are. That's extremely sandy. Maybe some part of like Namibia, or it could be a part of the Kalahari Desert. So maybe northern South Africa. It could be part of Botswana. Okay, so moving forward from phys.org. Changes to cougar diets and behaviors reduce their competition with wolves in Yellowstone, study finds. So, well, let's see what's going on here. He looks a bit thin. And he's, I think, enclosed. Okay. Well, ignoring him. A new study shows that interactions between wolves and cougars in Yellowstone National Park are driven by wolves stealing prey killed by cougars, and that shifts in cougar diets to smaller prey help them avoid wolf encounters. Yeah, but we still want them feeding on the larger animals. I don't want them stuck on like a diet of um, fawns or calves and hares. So squirrels. That would not be good. I don't want them becoming a pygmy cougar. Um, let's see. This study, published at a time of growing overlap between cougar and wolf habitats in the western United States, found wolves occasionally killed cougars, but cougars did not kill wolves. It's, I believe, occurred, but it's much rarer of an occurrence.
Is that
For
because they're
cougars.
in a pack?
Well, that too. Yeah, so they massively outmuscle and outstamina the cougar. Um, but it has occurred where cougars have killed wolves. But yeah, it's much more common for wolves to kill cougars. Researchers also found that cougars tend to avoid areas where wolves have made kills and stay close to escape terrain, such as climbable trees. Cougars responded to a decline in elk in the park by killing more deer, which they consume faster, leading to fewer interactions with wolves. Okay. Well, I mean, mule deer can get over, they can reach 400 pounds in some instances, or over 180 kilograms. That's not exactly a small meal for a cougar, but they can take on much larger animals. Let's see. But that's good to see with the wolves. A bit surprising, but in Yellowstone, wolves, depending on the season, will be going after more elk. But it just depends on the ecosystem. You can have it where they're focusing more on deer. It is interesting that they're not mentioning brown bears or even black bears in this instance, but they also tend to focus more when it comes to Yellowstone, specifically elk, even their calves during the calving season. So during the late May, early June instances, if you're talking winter, well, the bears for the most part are sleeping um, or giving birth, like especially if it's depending on the time of winter in their cave or their little burrow that they've created. But yeah, the wolves, they're going to be focusing on many elk individuals, possibly mule deer. In the winter or the high snow levels help with that. So let's see. Published in NPNAS, the study draws on 9 years of GPS data from collared wolves and cougars and field investigations of nearly 4,000 wolf or cougar kills in Yellowstone. Wow. Now you have to take into account how many wolves there are in Yellowstone, how often they're having to take in food. But there's around somewhere, I think there's about 111 wolves in Yellowstone. Population of cougars, I think somewhere around 2 to 300. Let's see.
You're just referring to Yellowstone.
Yeah, just the park itself, not even the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. That's a much larger area. So we're referring to somewhere around 3,246 square miles, or a little over 6,000 square kilometers. Let's see, probably like 6,500 square kilometers. The finding suggests that coexistence between wolves and cougars depends less on overall prey abundance and more on prey diversity and the availability of escape terrain. Well, I mean, yeah, it does depend on the different prey species they're both feeding on or that's available, but I would also think it would have to do with the abundance of those different prey species as well, considering um if you simply just have too few of a certain species, you're going to have it where they're both feeding on probably the same prey source. But in this case, they're not. In North America and worldwide, carnivore communities are undergoing major changes. Um, well, you can have it just depending on what's going on with like certain just harsher wet or dry spells in some instances that carnivores may shift like either different hunting strategies or simply a different they might shift to a different food source. But this doesn't seem to be too major if we're talking about, predator conflict. Our research provides insight into how two apex predators compete, which informs recovery efforts. Okay. You've had these places that in the last 20, 30 years have had cougars come back, and now wolves are coming back as well. There are a lot of people asking questions like, what are our ecological communities going to look like now that we have both of these large carnivores back on the landscape? Binder began his doctorate at Oregon State in 2022 after nearly a decade working on cougar monitoring in Yellowstone as part of the Yellowstone Cougar Project. His work included setting up a system of 140 remote cameras in the northern part of the park and catching and collaring cats. The new study builds on decades of research showing that wolves dominate interactions because they live in packs, while cougars are solitary. Previous studies have demonstrated how subordinate carnivores exhibit a trade off with dominant carnivores. They suffer mortalities but also benefit from scavenging their kills. Yet, cougars seldom scavenge other carnivore kills and are instead efficient hunters themselves, leading to unclear principles that govern their interactions with wolves. That is something to note. Cougars are one of those carnivores that just they simply do not scavenge very much. And in many cases, pretty much most other, even the coyotes will scavenge a lot more than
They
the
just like
cougars.
their fresh food.
Yeah, they do. I think that's a big component, as well as it's a bit too much of a risk for them to scavenge and have to deal with any other predators coming back to their kill or just coming to the kill because they're simply out muscled and out stamina in many ways. So let's see. Researchers investigated 3,929 potential wolf and cougar kill sites. 852 were wolf feeding events, 520 were cougar feeding events. So I guess just when it came to these potential sites, there were only this amount of times where they were actually feeding. Wolves made 716 kills and scavenged 136 times, primarily on elk, 542 of the carcasses, and bison were 201 carcasses, and there were 90 deer carcasses. Interesting. There are way more bison carcasses than there are deer. That's quite something. I wonder how many were younger calves. No, occasionally you'll have it where they're taking down a fully grown female, but almost like rarely, if ever, are they taking on a bull bison. Like bull bison are pretty much their biggest threat is the winter or disease. So let's see. Cougars made 513 kills and scavenged 7 times, mainly on elk.
How do they know that?
The trail cameras.
That's just what they caught on the trail cameras?
Yeah. So he made 500. Okay. So 272 carcasses were elk, and there were 220 deer carcasses. Interesting. The deer carcasses are almost equal to the elk. And it's not surprising there weren't any bison in this instance. I'm not sure if I've ever heard of a case where cougars took out even a. Well, I mean, they do have the ability to kill, a little bison calf, but it's just that usually they're in proximity to the herd, and bison can run for quite a distance, and the cougar needs a tree close by. So that's not surprising. I am shocked that it hasn't mentioned it didn't mention pronghorn, which cougars will occasionally go after pronghorn, but maybe in the area in Yellowstone that they had these cameras in, it just maybe there weren't any pronghorn in the area. Comparing data from 1998 to 2005 and 2016 to 2024 revealed major shifts. For wolves, bison increased from 1 to 10%. I guess because elk were much more numerous compared to the bison in Yellowstone, and especially back in the late 90s, you could even say early 2000s, there were many more because there was just simply a major overpopulation of elk from when the wolves were absent from the park. Let's see. And anyway, recent times though, you could have it where the bison population might be a bit higher in some instances, and they took advantage.
Okay, I just asked in the chat if this makes anyone hungry.
Oh, um, hmm. Well, now that you mention it, yes. Let's see. An elk declined from 95% to 63%. Whoa. What? Wow. Well, okay, like I said, about the decrease in population numbers, that I guess that makes a lot of sense. How much? Yeah, I mean, even they're probably feeding on more deer now. Okay. Also, wolves will occasionally go after pronghorn as well. For cougars, elk dropped from 80 to 52%. Whoa. And and deer increased from 15% to 42%. So they weren't in, well, I mean, yeah, so occasionally they would have some venison steak, and now it's not even a question. And elk, I mean, they're definitely not giving up on their elk steak. Let's see, let's keep going. These kill site investigations were then used to train machine learning models that use GPS data to predict wolf and cougar kill sites. This allowed researchers to pair all wolf and cougar movements with probable kill sites and identify the drivers of their interactions. They found wolf cougar interactions were highly asymmetric. Let's see. It's down. Okay. 42% occurred at predicted sites where cougars killed prey, and only one happened at a site where a wolf killed prey. Huh. The researchers documented 12 adult cougar deaths from 2016 to 2024, two of which were caused by wolves. Ooh, ouch. In both events, no escape terrain was available. Oh, ouch. Yeah, so there weren't any trees or some higher rock areas that the wolves couldn't reach them. And the wolves didn't consume the cougars, but ate the elk that the cats had killed. Interesting. It's almost like that's almost very respectful of the wolves. Like they killed it, but they said no, eating a cat is just wrong. Which I mean, I agree. I don't understand people eating lynx, cougars, lions. I think it's just odd. I just no. Anything in the canid or felid family, that's just a no. Um, Okay. So let's see. They recorded. I might even add mustelid. So animals like otters, hyenas, wolverines, ferrets. That's a no. So they recorded 90 wolf deaths during the same period, none of which were attributed to cougars. Most were due to natural causes or human actions. So let's see. Co-authors of the paper are Joel S. Oh, wait. Is this like the end? Oh, that's the end. Oh, wait, hold on a second. So 90 wolf deaths during the same period, none of which were attributed to cougars. Yeah. Huh. Humans. Oh, maybe they got hit by a car or the National Park Service took them out. And then natural causes. So conflict with other wolves, maybe got kicked by a bison, elk. Definitely does show how limited moose are in the region, considering Yellowstone National Park has maybe a little over 200 moose. And I think they're in somewhere in the northern regions, like the northeastern part of the park. Um, you have to they tend to be sighted a bit more all the way down Grand Teton National Park, but that's technically a bit of a distance from Yellowstone. It's just always made out like it's right next door when technically it's not. Okay, so this was interesting to see. So I guess we can take a look at the next video.
It's not a video.
Same tree, different cats. Siberian tiger and Amur leopard in United Administration of the State Nature Biosphere Reserve, Russia. Wow. Yeah, this is I've seen a couple of things over in the certain boreal forest over in northeastern, well, I wouldn't necessarily say northeastern Russia, but definitely extreme eastern Russia. Definitely northeastern China area too. And there are Amur leopards, Amur tigers, and even the brown bears in the area using like the same tree.
When I first saw this, I thought it was an AI thing, and then I read it.
Yeah, these are really good pictures, and both individuals seem quite healthy. Um,
Somebody's standing in a lot more snow.
oh, oh yeah, that took me a bit to notice. Hmm, his facial expression even says it. But the Emerald Leopard looks a bit um, annoyed too, probably because there's very few of them, like a little over 200. And more tigers are doing better. I think they're around 500 to 600 individuals. Well, I mean that seems a bit low. There might be somewhere around 800. So, moving forward from cardiff.ac.uk, new light shed on the domestication history of sheep and goats. Hmm. I wonder if this is going to give us a bit of an insight into who are the wild ancestors of these individuals. Okay, so let's see. Sheep and goats are two of the most important domestic species in livestock, and research from the Cardiff University School of Biosciences has traced the animals' domestication ancestry. The new research has uncovered clues to the root of the development of these animals into the domesticated sheep and goats that have played a huge role in human history and agriculture. Dr. Pablo Orozco Terwengo, researcher at Cardiff University, said sheep and goats were domesticated near the Fertile Crescent approximately 10,500 years ago. So it's over in the Near East. So let's see, over in Western Asia. We investigated the domestication history of these two species by comparing their genes to their wild ancestors, the Asiatic mouflon sheep and the Bezoar ibex. So I'm guessing that the Asiatic mouflon sheep is the
Those are
ancestor
huge
to all sheep.
horns.
Oh, well, this is the Bezoar ibex. So this animal inhabits a certain part of Western Asia, I believe, possibly the Caucasus Mountains. So adjacent to Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan. It's another country that I'm missing. Possibly Turkey. So, by comparing the genetic profiles of wild breeds of sheep and goats with local traditional and improved breed, the research uncovered areas of genetic code that played significant roles in the domestication process of wild species that has turned them into the well known farm animals that we see today. Wait, can you look up mouflon sheep? So it's Mouflon. These aren't exactly a common wild species of sheep, and they're more closely related to animals like the bighorn sheep over in the Rocky Mountains than they are to like different species of ibex, mountain goats, takin over in Asia. I think there he is. Yep, you can find them over in different parts of Turkey as well as Georgia, Armenia, like the Caucasus Mountain area, and I think they can reach a little over what's 250 pounds, possibly 300. Sheep tend to be or are bigger than wild sheep species are bigger than wild goat species. So, yeah, these look like pretty healthy rams. Not exactly having the same horn structure as what you find over in the bighorn sheep over in North America. Bighorn sheep in North America tend to have more robust or stockier sort of horn structure. I'm a bit concerned about where that horn is protruding. Some of these sheep have it where the horns will literally protrude into
Could
their
just be
own.
the angle of the camera.
It could be, but some of them can have had it where their own horns cause their own demise because they protruded into their skull. So, but besides that, he seems like a healthy individual, a bit wide, but he's not exactly fat. It's just
You say
from
a bit wide.
up to bottom. This guy looks just long.
He's just been hanging out at the salad bar.
Yeah, I guess so. Very, he's got a good coat. I guess let's head back to the article. Oh, Yeah, but very good looking sheep. Um, okay. Professor Mike Bruford, Cardiff University, said these comparisons revealed a dynamic history indicating population growth and bottlenecks of the wild ancestors. So, what he means by bottleneck is simply a period in time where there was a very small population of individuals. In some cases, literally a handful, kind of like what we saw with the cheetah at the end of the Pleistocene around 11,000 years ago. Other species of animals too, possibly ancient hominids, and they somehow just miraculously um, rebounded in population after this bottleneck. But I don't know if this would have occurred with this species of ibex and goat. I mean, and sheep.
Are sheeps goats or goats sheeps?
No, they're two completely different types of ungulates or two-toed animals. They are related to each other somewhat, but they're their own family.
I always get confused by that.
Yeah, so animals like bighorn sheep, the mouflon sheep. Is there another one? No, there are. It's just not hitting me. And then you have the chamois, the mountain goats, the takin, the ibex. Those are all goats. So let's see. Um, okay. It also shows that genetic regions linked with factors important to the domestication process, such as physical behavioral traits, were strongly affected. The study showed that during the selective breeding process, similar genes were targeted, morphing the wild Asiatic mouflon and Bezoar ibex into domesticated sheep and goats over the course of 10,000 years. But these genes behaved differently to how the researchers would have expected. So we also found that the same genetic traits were under selection during the domestication of both goats and sheep. The most remarkable observation is that selection in the same gene in the two different species happened in different and unexpected ways. Moreover, even though these selection patterns were different, they resulted in similar traits in both species. We now better understand the process of selective breeding and its relation to the genes of domestic sheep and goats. We used to think that when two species have similar physical traits and are closely related, like sheep and goats, that the same genes probably react in the same way to selective breeding. However, what we see here is that you can end up with similar characteristics, the same gene under selection, but radically different ways in which the gene changed. Okay, so it is quite interesting. The sheep came from over 10,000 years ago, the Asiatic mouflon sheep, and the goats came from the Bezoar ibex. And it's just amazing, like how with all that breeding, you have the variety of breeds today. Um, so I guess let's head over to the next video. I guess we're somewhere in North America. Of course. I'm guessing we're in Yellowstone.
They're getting a buffalo escort.
Yeah, I don't think we're over in Banff National Park in Alberta, but oh wow, they really are.
Yeah, it's a buffalo escort.
Yeah, they're 4 bulls too. 1 or 2 are a bit younger. This seems to be the older individual.
They're even checking the cars, make sure there's no problems.
Hmm. Bison security. Oh, I think he's the only older one. All the others seem much younger. Yeah, even that one in the middle. Hmm. Okay, so moving forward, cidrap.umn.edu. CWD prions found in moose, deer, reindeer muscles in Norway, highlighting potential risks to people. Wow. Chronic wasting disease, which is what CWD stands for, is I only really hear it from North America. So it's over in Europe. Oh boy. Let's take a look. That's a good looking reindeer. Researchers who late last week reported finding chronic wasting disease prions in the muscles of infected moose, red deer, and reindeer in Norway say the discovery raises questions about the risk of human exposure through eating the meat of infected cervids, members of the deer family, cervidae. CWD is a fatal neurodegenerative cervid disease caused by prions infectious proteins that trigger abnormal folding in normal proteins, especially in the central nervous system. Infected animals shed CWD and prions in body fluids, which can spread to other cervids through direct contact or the environment. The authors note that previous studies of cervids infected with North American CWD prion strains have detected prions in lymphoid tissues, peripheral nerves, muscles, blood, and excreta. But this was the first identification of European CWD prion strains in cervid muscle. How did all of a sudden it pop up here? Did you have it where somebody shipped in deer from North America and it transmitted to here? Sounds like it. So that's why it sounds so surprising. It's wasn't there originally. The study was published in Emerging Infectious Diseases. The tissue distribution of PRP to the power of CWD prions in reindeer. The CWD strain, similar to cases found in North America, was therefore not surprising. However, the findings of PRP to the power SC in peripheral tissues in moose,
I'm sorry, this is cracking me up.
uh, I don't know how else to say that. Like, okay. In peripheral tissues in moose and red deer by PMCA, protein misfolding cyclic amplification were less expected, especially in muscles, given the sporadic occurrence and lack of evidence to date for contagiousness of these new CWD strains. So, North American, Norwegian CWD prion strains differ. First identified in 1967 in Colorado. Whoa, I thought it was much older. So it's actually quite recent. Interesting. CWD.
Oh, so you know what this is?
Oh yeah, no, I've heard of it, especially in white-tailed deer. It's a big thing. Mule deer. Rare with like elk and moose, and I don't think I've ever heard of it with reindeer in North America, but I bet they have, especially more southern populations. So referring to populations over in southern Canada, maybe like British Columbia woodland caribou. Maybe certain populations over in Quebec, but let's see. Okay, CWD has now been found in 35 US states, Canada. Whoa, oh, that's it? I thought maybe it covered the whole country. That's interesting. Except Alaska. Canada, Finland, Norway, South Korea, and Sweden. That's just funny they put South Korea before Sweden. But what's it doing South Korea? That's what I'm wondering. Did they ship animals from North America with the disease and send them to these places? That's quite interesting. CWD prion strains seen in reindeer and moose in Nordic countries differ substantially from those found in North American cervids and have been characterized as sporadic rather than contagious. CWD sporadically detected in moose and red deer in 3 Nordic countries demonstrated pathologic and strain characteristics different from CWD in reindeer, including an unexpected lack of prions outside the central nervous system as measured by standard diagnostic tests. The Norwegian Veterinary Institute lead research team wrote. Let's see. So, mm, so it is interesting. They're different in the moose and the red deer compared to the reindeer. That's surprising. Studies have shown I mean, well, maybe not. It could be that the reindeer are a bit more distantly related to the moose and the red deer compared to those two themselves, but still, I don't know what that would have to do with it. Studies have shown 2 distinct patterns of prion progression in animals. The one observed with contagious CWD prion strains, North American CWD, involves the replication of prions in tissues from the lymphoreticular system, organs and tissues involved in immune responses, followed by spread to the peripheral nervous system and then the brain. With the other pattern seen in less contagious or non infectious prion diseases, such as atypical scrappy in sheep and goats. Replication mainly takes place in the CNS. Hmm.
Floppy Rabbit asked, "Does this affect eating the deer?"
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I don't know. I think I've heard certain things, but I could be confusing it with blue tongue, which I thought I heard if at least you cook it the right way, then it doesn't affect you. But I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I don't want to eat a blue tongue.
Yeah, I guess if it's not coming from a giraffe, I'm not really interested. But I mean, eating a giraffe is not really on my to-do list. I mean, it's one of those animals that's like, yeah, it's like there's something about it where it's fine, but at the same time, it's like I'm not interested.
Do people actually eat giraffes?
Yeah. Um, his name's Alex. So for the study, the investigators looked for prions in the lymph nodes, nerves, and muscles of four moose, two reindeer, and one red deer that tested positive through Norway's CWD surveillance program via enzyme linked immunoassay tests. Three healthy reindeer, three moose, and one red deer served as controls. Okay, originally I thought these animals were dead, so this is interesting. This work emphasized the importance of using ultra sensitive tests to identify cases of CWD that conventional methods would have missed. So, Western blot testing confirmed the presence of CWD prions in the brain, lymph nodes, and nerves in reindeer, but only in the brain of moose and red deer. PMCA, a more sensitive test, reveals prions in the lymphoreticular system of moose and red deer with CWD and in the muscles of both these species and infected reindeer. Of all muscles tested, those from the head were more likely to be positive than those from other areas of the body. Those results confirm the variability of CWD prion distribution in isolates from different cervid species in Norway and demonstrate that the moose samples had two different prion types. Um, see. Could you look up a moose and a reindeer? Maybe even stick in a red deer. But this is quite interesting. I wonder if it's probably even been infecting roe deer, invasive white-tailed deer over in Norway, also the other countries too. This is
A different kind of moose?
this is fine. I mean, this isn't the Eurasian moose. This is looks like a Shiras moose over in probably Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming.
Did you want the Eurasian moose?
Yeah, I guess you can stick one up there. Um, Technically, Eurasian moose are larger than the Shiraz moose. They can get to like 1,500 pounds, possibly, or a little over. What 600, 700 kilograms? But let's see. Oh yeah, the roe deer, white-tailed deer. I swear there's somebody else that's not hitting me. I don't believe though it affects wolves or bears that feed on them. I think they're completely okay. That might be a Eurasian moose. He's a very nice set of antlers. Oh yeah, him definitely. At least he has a bit of slightly smaller antler base. They can get bigger than this. Also, the moose over in Russia, like especially as you travel further east, they can become close to the size of the moose over in the Yukon, Canada, Alaska. So they can reach close to over 1,700 pounds or a little over 800 kilograms. Where the specific caribou is occurring or reindeer, this could be over maybe in a part of Europe. That's fake. Yeah, those are AI. This is an authentic picture. Probably sometime in the summer as velvet's growing. This seems to be a Svalbard reindeer, so this is the smallest subspecies of reindeer on Earth. They barely reach 200 pounds or a little over 95 kilograms. Um, Occasionally, polar bears will take advantage of these animals, but polar bears prefer that they're adjacent to the water so they can drown them, which is interesting considering it weighs so much more than the reindeer. I wouldn't think it would need water to help it. I think occasionally they might have spooked them on the coast, but you tend to see them swimming and then grabbing the reindeer. So there's a Svalbard reindeer and red deer individual. He seems to have just shed his velvet. So it's probably sometime in the fall. Seems to be roaring, or as elk in North America, which are its closest relative, bugle. It's quite interesting that the smaller species has much more broad, sort of rough type of a sound than the more higher pitched elk does. Oh, that was it. Oh, yeah, we got moose, reindeer,
Oh, you asked for something else.
red deer. No, all three. No, this is all three.
You said red deer.
Yeah, that's the one on the right on this screen.
Oh, I didn't know that. It just went under reindeer.
Mm. Yeah, I've caught that. They're they're actually quite distantly related. So let's see if there was anything else on that. They seem quite healthy moose. I think no, that one. There we go. So let's see, where were we? Okay. So CWD prions from the tissues of one moose lymph node and muscle sample showed infectivity. No, yeah, when experimentally transmitted to 2 of 4 blank voles, like the rodents. The negative transmission observed with 2 PMCA positive tissues could be to the result of the presence of very low levels of infectivity, below the detection limit of the vole bioassay. Although no human CWD cases have been identified, the results highlight the potential risk of human exposure to even small numbers of prions through handling and consuming infected cervids. The presence of prions in peripheral tissues indicates that CWD may have systematic nature in all Norwegian cervid species, challenging the view that prions are exclusively localized in the CNS in sporadic CWD of moose and red deer. Our findings expand the notion of just how widely distributed prions can be in cervids affected with CWD and call into question the capability of emerging CWD strains in terms of infectivity to other species, including humans. Um, hmm, let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, that's it. Honestly, don't know what to say about that ending part, but it's just a bit of it's a bit surprising, and it's a bit expected to all of a sudden find this over in Europe and South Korea. Guess I'm not surprised it didn't mention Japan, but there's Sika deer over in Japan too. So let's head over
Are
to
those the ones that are fed the cookies?
yep. There's also different truly wild populations of them that do not routinely bow their heads. Um,
Okay, this I just found funny.
looks like somewhere in Texas, possibly. Oh, whoa! What on earth?
He's just
Uh,
taking a break. That is a lazy cow.
I wouldn't want his dirty feet in the feed though.
Just eating, laying there. Ta-da. Makes me think of Chunk in the Goonies.
That's a funny calf. Okay, from NBCChicago.com. Bison make incredible return to Kane County prairies after centuries. Bison long ago roamed prairies in Illinois, and this week's reintroduction is the latest step toward restoring a critical member of the state's ecosystem. The environment it looks like in the background of this bison. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's a bison over at Antelope Island State Park in
Is he
Utah.
shedding?
Probably. It's probably summertime. Oh, no, it's early it's late summer, September 12th, 2025. So let's see. Okay. It was a momentous day in suburban Kane County earlier this week as bison returned to a prairie area for the first time in hundreds of years. According to the Forest Preserve District of Kane County, it's been at least 200 years since bison roamed natural prairie areas in the county. Wow. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's a long time. That's since 1800. That's interesting considering the stories they make it out like the United States government came in and just wiped all of the herds out in 50 years or something. And I've heard some say 100, but um I thought it was much more recent. So that's quite interesting. But a new herd is now making themselves at home at the Burlington Prairie Forest Preserve in Sycamore. The arrival of the new herd is a partnership between the Forest Preserve District of Kane County, the American Indian Center of Chicago, and Reuter Bison as herd manager, according to officials. Let's see. So, yeah, used to have bison, elk roam Illinois, as well as cougars, wolves. I'm not sure about brown bears, possibly, or maybe it's a little too far east. But let's see. People have wanted to bring buffalo back since we first learned that our actions could cause extinction of species. The scale of what's okay. Let's get to it. Okay. According to officials, residents are asked not to flock to the preserve as the bison get acclimated to their new surroundings. Press release: bison make return to Kane County. Okay, well, is there
Why
pictures?
does that bison look shocked?
Yeah, he does. Well, maybe he is in a state of shock. I think they moved them from somewhere. So, um, well, these individuals, besides that, look okay. It is interesting that they moved them during winter, like during the time when they're facing a lot of pressures. Not that they don't, in summer occasionally, but is quite interesting. But at least they're frolicking or they're spooked. Quietness and calmness are what is needed to give these animals time to adjust and feel safe and secure at Burlington Prairie Forest Preserve. In addition, Burlington Prairie is one of the preserves that we partially close seasonally due to the blowing and drifting snow in wintertime. This will give the bison even more time to adjust. Come spring, we're planning public events to celebrate and welcome the buffalo back to Kane. I don't know how large of an area you're putting them in, technically, though. Um, we don't know the amount of acreage. You have it where there are these large prairie areas, but the bison have like a little sliver of 3 acres, maybe.
Akita Bear says bison is one of my favorite animals.
Um, I wonder why, pal. Did you like eating them? That doesn't count. Okay. Well, I'll just he's a very he's close relative to the wolf, so I guess that's okay. There are other bison in the county, including at a zoo in Lord's Park and at Fermalop. Oh yeah, that's where I want to see a bison. Supposed to be roaming and stuck in a little box. But this herd is the first to roam on public land in years. Experts say bison are important to prairie ecosystems, feeding on plants and wallowing on the ground, causing small depressions that fill with water that helps to create microclimates. Elsewhere in the area, a herd of bison has been residing at the Midwin National Tallgrass Prairie and have been for the last 10 years. The Nakusa grasslands, located in parts of Lee and Oldgate counties, also has a herd of bison grazing on its more than 4,000 acres of prairie land. I wonder if they really do have all of that area because in many cases they tend to be cut off, like especially when it comes to these um, preserves over in the Midwest or even places like Texas. Um, though, if you're referring to like Caprock Canyon State Park, I think the bison have like free roam of almost the whole area, and it's at least what I think 2,000 acres. So let's see. A small grazing herd is also in place at the Pleasant Valley Conservation Area in McHenry County. As part of the management of the herd, AIC held a ceremonial blessing of the land when the bison were released on Monday. It's a uh, rematriation. It's a return of relatives who have been missing from this place for far too long. Bison have carried our stories. Okay, let's see. After spending a brief spell in a smaller enclosure, the bison will be released into a large fenced prairie later this month. Oh, okay. Pancake warning. Oh, pancake ice. All right. Um. Okay, we still don't know how long or how large of an area they'll be released into. So let's head to the next video. Whoa. What is this? Some part of Idaho? Looks like a fire just struck this area. It takes her 2 yearlings to heavier cover as a winter storm rolls in. Also, this forest seems a bit too dense. Or I don't think it's because it's winter. It seems quite eroded, like a fire went through here a little while back, and everything's having to recover. Those all seem to be mule deer does. Oh, fawns too. Oh, yeah, those are definitely fawns. Hmm. Oh, for some reason, I was expecting like a wolf to come by. And depending on where they are in Idaho, especially in the forested areas, there are different packs of wolves. Okay, from researchmatters.in. DNA from dung outperforms traditional methods of counting Asian elephants. So here's a family or a
Akita
female.
Bear said, "I don't eat bison."
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what Wilderness Foods advertises, so that's got to be a lie. And of course, they have a picture of some dung in the background. It's a great advertisement. In a new study conducted in the fragmented forest landscape of Kodagu and Kodagu, Karnataka, researchers have developed a reliable method to count Asia's elephants by analyzing DNA from dung samples. New method was found to outperform traditional counting methods, which often overestimate the population. The research provides the first rigorous validation of a non invasive genetic technique against a known wild elephant population in Asia, offering a critical new framework for conservation efforts across the continent. So, researchers from Wildlife Institute of India, National Tiger Conservation Authority, WIINTCA Tiger Cell, Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, and the Ministry of Environment, Forests, and Climate Change conducted their study in the Kodagu landscape with a mix of tropical forests and coffee plantations. I wonder if this is one of those areas where you will see those those funny videos. Where it'll be from somebody's camera on their house, and it shows a guy running through his plantation. Though I'm not sure if it was a coffee plantation or a palm oil plantation, and there's this bull elephant that's trying to run him over. Those are funny. Let's see. The region also harbors an Asian elephant or Elephas maximus population whose size is already known through long term monitoring by the Karnataka Forest Department, including direct counts of semi captive elephants and GPS collar tracking of two resident wild herds. This field validated reference point allowed the team to directly compare the accuracy and bias of their new estimation techniques. Okay. When tested against a known population of 34 elephants in the study area, the conventional method of counting dung piles overestimated the actual number by a factor of 6. For decades, line transect dung surveys have been the standard indirect technique for estimating elephant numbers in dense tropical forests where the animals are hard to see. This method involves estimating the density of dung piles and then converting that number into an elephant population size using assumed rates for how often an elephant defecates and how quickly the dung decays. Yeah, definitely over in a drier environment, you're going to have it also probably during the dry season itself. The dung takes things in general take a much longer time to decompose. And then in areas where it's a lot wetter, it tends to decompose much quicker. So let's see. Using also how many insects are taking advantage of it, birds, they're finding like different bits of vegetation. Also, probably munching on the insects that are feeding on it as well. So let's see. Using traditional line transect dung counts, the team estimated elephant density at 1.27 individuals per square kilometer. Hmm. This suggests a total population of around 127 elephants. I don't know the size of this national park, so I'm not entirely sure if this is a large amount for the area. That's a big question. In sharp contrast, the new method called genetic spatially explicit capture recapture estimated a density of 0.23 individuals per square kilometer. Whoa, that's low. Corresponding to a total abundance of 39 elephants. The confidence interval or the margin of error for the genetic estimate tightly encompassed the actual known population of 34, demonstrating minimal error. For decades, line transect dung surveys have been the standard indirect technique for estimating elephant numbers in dense tropical forests where the animals are hard to see. This method involves estimating the density of dung piles and then converting the number into an elephant population size using assumed rates for how often an elephant defecates and how quickly the dung decays. The problem, as the researchers confirmed, is that these defecation and decay rates vary widely by season, habitat, and climate. And using non local or average values, which can introduce errors of over 50%. In tropical forests, this often leads to an overestimation of the true abundance. Um, oh, well, that is quite interesting. How much dung are they finding? I guess quite a bit. We are referring to a group of Asian elephants.
Sounds like a crappy job.
Yep. um, to overcome this, the scientists turned to non-invasive genetic sampling, which acts as a digital mark recapture system. During the survey period in June and July 2021, field teams opportunistically collected fresh dung samples along the transects. I think part of it is just keeping the enthusiasm when you're talking about nothing but dung and the occasional elephant population number. And then when you finally do, it's a low population estimate. So it's like, come on. Anyway.
Well, wouldn't dung beetles like this?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a wide variety of different species of dung beetles. So let's see. In the laboratory, DNA was extracted from the outer layer of the dung and then genotyped using high throughput or throughout microsatellite sequencing. This process identifies individual elephants based on their unique genetic profiles. Of 144 samples collected, 124 were successfully genotyped, yielding 33 to 34 unique individuals. A near perfect match to the known population. Well, it's definitely higher than the 39 wait, no, 34 you were seeing earlier. Almost the same as the 127. So, unlike dung counts, the CECR model does not rely on the variable decay or defecation rates. Instead, it uses the individual DNA profiles in the dung to record the location and simultaneously estimate population size, detection probability, and the spatial scale of detection, which reflects the animal's home range. Oh, whoa. Okay, well, that's different. So, it's giving us definitely even a glimpse into the animal's whole territory, or this herd's home range. That's interesting to see. This approach accounts for animal movement within the survey area, preventing the same animal from being counted more than once. It also yields density estimates that are less biased by environmental factors. The genetic analysis also provided valuable evolutionary insights, suggesting signs of genetic diversity and potential fine scale population substructure or inbreeding. They're probably able to obtain certain DNA from the dung, I guess. So that's giving them okay, that makes more sense. Whoa, there's a lot that we're getting from the dung. The genetic CECR approach is robust because it eliminates the reliance on habitat.
I am not going to go dig through poop to look for stuff.
Yeah, that's still quite challenging. That's a lot. And climate sensitive decay rates. Furthermore, the genetic data.
I'm sorry, this is reminding me of Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, when she's going through. First of all, that large dung pile never really made any sense. I mean, certainly it is possible for a sauropod, I guess, over time to create that much.
But that wasn't the sauropod that made that.
The Triceratops? Oh yeah, that definitely. Okay, yeah, that's definitely not occurring. Well, no, I don't think so. It'd be much shorter, and also wouldn't be feeding on probably plants that weren't even around at that point. But okay, it's got other animals mixed in with it. But let's head back to the elephant. Also, the dung would also be much more spread out because if you look at almost any species of large herbivore today, it's quite spread out in the way that they distribute it. Now, you could say the Triceratops is more close to a bird, but
Wait, does anything spread it like a hippo?
oh, right. Mean if they don't have some sort of a digestive problem? I don't know of any. At least it's not hitting me at the moment.
That spins their tail in a circle.
Oh, yeah, I think the hippo is the only one that I can think of. So let's see. The genetic analysis also provided valuable evolutionary insights. I already said that. Okay. So the method, however, requires a greater per unit investment than dung counts. There are also logistical challenges, particularly the rapid degradation of DNA in dung in tropical environments, which led to 14% of the samples failing to genotype. Or oh, right, yeah, the because of the wetness of the environment and it's breaking down the DNA in the dung rather quickly. Interesting. So they're really having to gather it immediately. For these reasons, the researchers suggest a hybrid framework may be the most practical solution, using periodic genetic CECR surveys to calibrate and validate easier, more frequent methods like dung counts or camera traps. Whew, okay. Well, that was interesting for the estimation that we got on those three populations. So, also, um, real quick, where was this again? Okay, Karnataka Forest. All right, let's head to the next video. What is going on here? Oh, there's a cub. There's two cubs.
Grab the baby. Grab the baby.
I wonder if he wants the shade from the vehicle. I'm guessing this is.
I don't know. It
grassy.
doesn't look sunny. Get over here.
I think it is.
I think she was just telling it to get over. What? Get back in the water. Oh, washing them?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Just trying to make them take a. No.
Da, 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 da. It just left the other one there.
Yeah, the cub's somehow oblivious.
It's going back over to the vehicle. I didn't watch the whole thing before.
Yeah, he seems. Yeah, he's calling for his mother, but it's like all you have to do is just turn your head. Okay, so from india.mangabay.com, the elusive Mishmi Takin faces new challenges in its challenging habitat. So this seems to be a young one, but this is the wild species of goat found in the different parts of the high mountains in southern China, as well as I think northern Thailand, Vietnam, and no, not Vietnam. Could it be Vietnam?
I thought it was going to be a sheep.
It's a distant relative, but it's a goat. So high in the mist shrouded mountains of Arunachal Pradesh. Oh, right. Okay, they're over in northern India. I think part of Myanmar too. So where India meets Tibet and Myanmar lives one of the most elusive creatures of the Himalayas, Mishmi Takin, or Bodorcas taxicolor. The species is so unusual that early naturalists struggled to classify it. This robust, shaggy ungulate, often described as a cross between a goat and an ox, I'd even put a wildebeest onto there, has roamed these slopes for millennia, or thousands of years, perfectly adapted to the harsh, remote terrain. Bhutanese and Tibetan folklore says the 15th century Buddhist monk Drukpa Kunli created the takin by joining a cow's body with the goat's head, explaining its peculiar appearance. In the early 20th century, Captain F. M. Bailey, in Journey Through a Portion of Southeastern Tibet and the Mishmi Hills, reported spotting Mishmi takin herds of up to 300 animals. The Mishmi takin is one of four subspecies of the takin, a rare goat antelope native to the eastern Himalayas. With powerful limbs, a large head, and a golden yellow dark brown coat, it stands up to 1.3 meters or a little over 4 feet and weighs over 300 kilograms or pushing around 700, 720 pounds. Its arched nose and large sinus cavities warm icy mountain air before it reaches the lungs, an ideal adaptation for high altitude life. I think there was a certain study that came out when it came to large noses that it doesn't seem to be the case with them warming air. I think it also had something to do with Neanderthals. So let's see. Chima, an associate professor of mammal behavior and diversity at Dali University in Yunnan, China, who has studied the Mishmi takin. Also, this is an herbivore. It has quite a strange look. Some might think that it wants to eat you. but unless it's maybe in the case like the mountain goats, they just want your salt. It's an herbivore. Let's see. Explains that the species is an important large herbivore in the eastern Himalayas. It helps shape vegetation and may contribute to seed dispersal. And it also forms part of the prey base for local predators. Its survival depends on the integrity of humid montane forests, access to mineral licks, and the availability of uninterrupted migration corridors. Japan also has takin too. So let's see. Well, that's snow takin. I guess it's just one of the habitats that one of the subspecies of takin live in. So, in 2024, a comprehensive survey was launched to map the Mishmi takin's distribution and population in Arunachal Pradesh and parts of Sikkim, covering Dibbang Valley, Siang, Zambon, Siri, and Loit Changling, and including Namdafa and Muling National Parks.
Oh my god.
And I'm guessing that was part of China. In Idu Mishmi lands, where the Mishmi takin roams, animals are not merely wildlife. They are co-inhabitants of the forest, sharing the landscape with humans. The Idu Mishmi is a major subtribe of the Mishmi group, and they reside in Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, I'm not sure if that's referring to the taxonomic tree or this is referring to people. Their interactions with the forest, including hunting. Oh, okay, yeah, it's a primate. Including hunting is regulated through a system of rich. Wait, what? What does this have to do with the? Okay. So let's see. Recent camera trap and field surveys from Arunachal Pradesh have typically recorded solitary animals or very small groups. So referring to the takin. Do they show a pic? Okay. So here they are. We might need to look up the Mishmi. Can you look up the Mishmi takin? Unless it. Wait a second. Does it maybe? What? Wait. No. Oh. Okay. Jeesh, it's a long thing too. Maybe it'll show the results pretty shortly. I need the Mishmi token. So, capital or doesn't have to be MISHMI, and then separate word TAKIN. To look like a wildebeest goat, sort of mountain goat, you could say mix, like wildebeest horns to an extent. So I believe certain subspecies can reach well over 1,000 pounds or over 450 kilograms. And they do tend to inhabit very high altitudes, so over 8,000 feet. Okay, yeah, here is one of the Himalayan takin. Um, Seems to be a pretty healthy.
I'm just trying to find them in the wild. It looks like they're in a lot of zoos.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how many zoos have these animals or certain rescue centers. I was expecting them to be one of those animals that you couldn't have in captivity, but apparently they can be quite docile. It's just animals like pronghorn, Cape buffalo, you don't usually see. Yep, here's one. Yeah, he just looks pretty docile. I think some subspecies can reach over 6 feet in height, or like what 1.8 meters. Yeah, there are not too many of them. I think certain subspecies, there's like 12,000 individuals. Unless I'm thinking of another individual. And another, no, I think around 4 to 6,000. And another one, there might be only a few hundred of them. Oh, yeah, there's one with its calf. Almost has like a sort of a bear sort of a plumage to him. Whereas this one's not.
I was actually thinking a buffalo.
Oh, yeah, actually, that too. Yeah, a bit of a bison sort of a plumage. I mean, they are both ungulates or two-toed animals. So they are somewhat related.
Was there something else?
No, it was just the talking. Let's see if they give us any thing on the numbers. Okay, the Mishmi Takin inhabits elevations between 1,800 and 4,000 meters, or over what 13,000 feet above sea level. During warmer months, it moves to alpine meadows, while in winter, it descends to forested slopes in search of food. Its secretive behavior in remote habitats makes sightings rare. So here seems to be a good herd of the Mishmi takin. So a herd of Mishmi takin grazing in the Ayo Valley in August 2024. A 2019 study published in Global Ecology and Conservation highlighted a significant lack of field data, emphasizing the need for focused research. Guessing it's referring to the takin. In 2024, the Arunachal Pradesh Forest Department, in partnership with the Wildlife Trust of India and funded by the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment, launched a comprehensive survey to map the species distribution and population in Arunachal Pradesh and parts of Sikkim. So, the survey covers the four regions, including Nandafa and Muling National Parks. So, Rao Kal, director of WTI, described it as the first survey of its kind. So let's see. Expected to provide valuable new insights into the Mishmi Takin's distribution and ecology and help guide future conservation measures. Recent research by the Wildlife Institute of India analyzed nearly 200 takin sightings alongside environmental variables such as climate, vegetation, terrain, and human disturbance. The findings show that only about 11% of northern and eastern Arunachal currently provide an optimal habitat. Let's see. The Mishmi takin thrives in cold, wet, rugged slopes with dense forest and subalpine meadows, but is highly sensitive to roads, settlements, and unprotected areas, making targeted conservation crucial. A complaint filed with the National Green Tribunal in 2025 cited anthropogenic disturbance caused by road construction and as a threat to the takin and other endangered species. Yeah, that doesn't seem to be too surprising. Most species, um, in many cases, tend to react quite negatively towards roads. Let's see. So, field researchers have witnessed these changes firsthand. Mohan Sharma, a doctoral researcher in geography at Sikkim University studying human and wildlife and, relations in the Mishmi Hills, he said it took 5 days to reach Brunei, a remote village near Takan habitats in the Zauru Valley close to the Chinese border. When I first went to Brunei in 2016, it took a 5-day walk to reach the village. By 2023, a road connecting Seko to Brunei was constructed. Now it's just a couple of hours' drive. The road cuts through a biodiversity rich landscape, including subalpine meadows, pine, and conifer forests, and streams that support Mishmi takin, red panda, clouded leopard, and other rare species. Whoa, wow, we have red panda in this area? That's a bit surprising with the clouded leopard. Hmm. Before the road, journeys in the area were seasonal, leaving wildlife largely undisturbed. Now, with an all-weather road, the area sees increased visitors and vehicle or traffic, which is likely to rise in the future. This could disturb the habitats of the dakin and other rare species over time. Moreover, researchers have warned that mega hydroelectric projects such as the Siang Valley Dam project potentially threaten the Mishmi takin among other species. Yeah. Whoa.
Why do we keep getting pictures without any animals?
Yeah, I don't. Okay. Anything else? No, that's it. Hmm. Okay, so they're referring to just a small population over in India. Okay. Well, I guess let's head over to the final article. Oh, wait. Um, another video?
Yeah, I wanted to know if you thought this was real.
No. Yeah, definitely not.
I thought I've heard of them stealing dumpsters, though.
Yeah, it's probably a small trash can that they're dragging, but not like that. Oh, we just headed to the next one, or oh, okay. So from discoverwildlife.com, My first reaction was disbelief. Spotted hyena seen in Egypt for first time in 5,000 years. So so since they haven't arrived in um, Egypt since the Neolithic period. So this is quite interesting. The hunter scavenger was seen 500 kilometers north, or a little over 250 miles of its known range. Scientists are trying to figure out what it was doing there.
That is far too cute of a hyena.
Yeah, it might be a male too. Yeah, it looks quite positive. Spotted hyena crocuta crocuta has been recorded in southeastern Egypt, marking the first documented sightings of this species in the region for thousands of years. The discovery, I find that kind of a bit like um bit too stretched of a time period. I thought maybe occasionally they might pop in the area.
How would anybody actually know that?
Yeah, it'd be really hard to say. The discovery is remarkable because it occurred around 500 kilometers north of the hyena's known range in neighboring Sudan. The lone hyena was tracked and killed in late February 2024, roughly 30 kilometers or about 15 miles from the Sudanese border, after it had predated two goats belonging to local herders in Wadi Yamib in the Elba protected area. Oh, I've heard of this. It's a huge protected area. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not too protected, but I just meant the preserve itself. Okay, let's see. My first reaction was disbelief until I checked the photos and videos of the remains, says study's lead author Dr. Abdullah Nagi from Al Azhar University in Egypt. Seeing the evidence, I was completely taken aback. It was beyond anything we had expected to find in Egypt. So, what was spotted hyena doing in Egypt? Spotted hyenas are skilled pack hunters, typically found in various habitats across sub Saharan Africa. They can travel up to 27 kilometers a day or a little over, let's see, 13 miles? Or, yeah. Often following human managed livestock migrations and scavenging when the opportunity arises. I tend to forget that they will focus on weaker, calves of different, or even full grown cows themselves when it comes to these herds. Until now, they hadn't been seen in Egypt for millennia. Researchers say that changes in climate may have opened new migration routes. They suggest that a natural weather cycle known as the active Red Sea Trough may have increased rainfall and plant growth in the region, creating better conditions for prey animals, making it easier for the hyena to travel. Hmm. I haven't heard of this. Well, there's quite a bit of desert over here in this part of Sudan, north of Eritrea. So that's interesting. They used to inhabit all of northern Africa a few thousand years ago, but then there was a massive change in the climate, so it became extremely arid. To test their theory, the team used satellite imagery taken between 1984, that's interesting, and 2022 to analyze changes in vegetation levels. Their findings showed alternating periods of drought and relative wetness, with the past 5 years experiencing greater plant growth than the previous 2 decades. Huh, I didn't know this. This could have supported more prey species, in turn making the area more habitable for a hyena. So I wonder if different species of antelope were moving to the region. Can't think of anybody else. But why this particular hyena made such a long journey into Egypt remains a mystery. Further research is needed to understand its motivations. The discovery challenges existing ideas about the spotted hyena's range and highlights the impact of regional climate changes on wildlife movements. The authors conclude, well, that's just a handful, probably hopping obviously much further south. This could be like what part of Botswana, or maybe we're looking at an area of Zambia.
Maybe it thinks somebody looks tasty for a second.
Well, that too, but it's definitely during the wet season. Everything seems quite lush. Um, he'll probably just disappear. So let's see. Anything else? Oh, what is that? It? Oh, so that was quite interesting with that specific hyena. It's too bad though he got taken out. I mean, after he went after a couple of goats. So definitely seems that I'm guessing, especially over in southern Egypt, there's a limited amount of antelope if there's any in the area. Thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. If you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.